taxes.
Well, Democrats are taking a new look at plans to pay for health care reform by taxing the rich. The thinking on Capitol Hill that there's less a chance of reaching bipartisan agreement on health care. So now they're kind of going back to some ideas that were deal breakers. Here's what President Obama said last month. Listen.
When I was campaigning, I made a promise that I would not raise your taxes if you made $250,000 a year or less. That's what I said. But I said that for people like myself who make more than that, there's nothing wrong with me paying a little bit more in order to help people who got a little bit less. That was my commitment. If we just did that alone, just that change alone, for people making more than $250,000, that alone would pay for the health care we're talking about.
Now, remember what he just said there, just that alone, right? Let's introduce the panel first. Tennessee Congresswoman Marcha Blackburn is a deputy Republican whip. She sits on the Energy and Commerce Committee. And California Congressman Adan Schiff is a Democrat on the House Appropriations Committee. He's just back, by the way, from touring those California wildfires. And Congressman, we'll get to that in a minute. But Congresswoman, we have to bring up, the president just said that alone will pay for health care, right? So we're going to put this on the screen thanks to our friends in the Fox News brain room. Here's the deal. They're talking about raising taxes on those who make more than $250,000 a year. Remember, the CBO says it's going to be $1 trillion over 10 years. To get that $1 trillion, you would have to raise the tax rate from those people making $250 plus from 35% to 52.5%. That is a 50% increase in taxes, and that would give you the grand total of your $1 trillion. That's a pretty hefty increase, Congresswoman.
It is a very hefty increase, and the thing is, it is a jobs killer, and we know that because small businesses generate our jobs, and most of your small businesses file as individual income tax filers on a 1040, or they have sub-S corporations. So this is something that would be a jobs killer in addition to not dealing with the ongoing deficit.
Congressman Schiff, you know, it's a fair point that small businesses are complaining about this, and you look at all these nonpartisan studies, and taxes are just not going to be enough to fill the void here. So if taxes are not going to be enough on those who make $250 and above, it kind of trickles down, doesn't it? I mean, at some point in time, do you not have to raise taxes on pretty much everybody?
Well, first of all, you know, I think that the speech that was just excerpted of the president, if you go and look at the whole speech he gave, in that speech he talked about trying to get 2/3 of that $1 trillion you mentioned by going after overpayments we're doing to the prescription drug industry, overpayments to some of the Medicare providers.
But that's best hope, Congressman.
So what the president said in that speech was that only 1/3 of that trillion would be raised through revenue raisers. And again, he reiterated his commitment. If your family is earning less than $250,000, you won't be affected. In terms of the small business issue, though, the plan that's come out of the House that I think would raise revenues with families making over $350,000
I just want to ask you, Congressman, on the tax issue. The tax issue, yeah. If the CBO numbers are correct and the taxes are not going to be able to fill the void here, what do you do? Do you raise taxes on the middle class? Would you support that? Would you support a tax increase across the board?
Well, you know, again, what the CBO said, and the president talked about this in that same speech, is that you would only need to raise revenues to raise 1/3 of that trillion, because the health reforms raise the other 2/3 through cost savings, through basically a reallocation of the resources we're already spending. But I do want to address the small business point because it's an important one.
Okay, very quickly.
Yes, if I could, the CBO estimate is, again, that 96% of small businesses are completely unaffected by this proposal, and I think we can get that number closer to 100% by making sure that small businesses can file under an alternate provision of the tax code so they don't face any increase.
If you're looking at, if you want to take that number and say, okay, only 1/3 of this is going to have to come out of additional taxes, then where does the other 2/3 come? And we know what is going to happen. They're going to come from taxes and user fees, bad behavior taxes that they're looking at implementing. The thing is, the middle class is going to pay. You can look at the CBO analysis, you can look at other analysis, some from the Wall Street Journal. They will all tell you if you're going to deal with a $12 trillion debt, if you're going to deal with a $2 trillion annual deficit, which every year we're looking at for the next 10 years is over $1 trillion. Taxes are going to go up, not only on the wealthy, not only on the rich, but on middle class taxpayers and on small businesses.
And if I can, very quickly, Congressman, I just want to get your take on the fires out there. I don't want to change subjects here, but this is very important. A lot of people in California affected. Can you give me 15 seconds on what the governor told you?
Yeah, no, I'd be happy to. Got a great briefing today, and happily this station fire that's consumed 140,000 acres is now 38% contained. And that may not seem a lot, but for days and days, it was only 5%. So the containment's moving in the right direction, and the firefighters are doing just a brilliant job.
It's a good number. Congressman Adan Schiff in California, Congresswoman Marcha Blackburn from Tennessee, thank you both.